Hey everybody, welcome to Two Comic Book Dudes. I'm Aaron Clutter, editor-in-chief of Comic Booked.
Hey everybody, Justin, managing editor over at Comic Book.
And tonight we've got a special guest from Space Goat Productions, Shon Bury. Shon, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Shon, if you want to kind of give us a little background for yourself first, and then if you want to talk about Space Goat Productions, we know there's some great books coming out of the company right now, and we definitely want to talk about, the roots of the company. Where did you start, and then we'll talk about the future too.
Yeah, so I got into comic books about 21 or 22 years ago as a freelance writer when I was still in college. I just started submitting springboards and scripts and outlines and whatnot, primarily to DC, right after the Image wave kind of started. I had it kind of in the back of my early 20s brain that, with as much new books that were coming out, that there was bound to be room for new writers to kind of like get in under the wire. 3 years later, I started getting published. It took about 3 years of continually submitting to get published. So I got published at DC in one of their showcase books in 1995. From there I worked regularly for about the better part of 7 years. At DC, Wildstorm, fair amount at Marvel, wrote Power Pack, like Volume 2 with Colleen Duran, if you're familiar with that book, late 90s. Some work at Acclaim, and just kind of kicked around for a bit, and then took a hiatus in 2001. What else did I write? Some fill-in stuff for Cable and Superman Adventures. So I got the gamut of freelance stuff out of my hair. Decided to take a break in 2001-ish, and got back in 2005, and kind of fell into talent management and production management when I went looking for artists for some of my own graphic novels that I wanted to write and produce. And there was a studio that had just lost their studio head, and they had just asked me to do it for them. So I figured that would be a good opportunity to kind of reach out to some of my old contacts at Marvel and DC and start and make some new contacts. And then it just kind of became readily apparent that it was something that could get turned into a fairly sizable business fairly quick. We're talking about 2005 now. So in 2006, I created Space Goat Productions, and then kind of cobbled together 3 or 4 studios around the world with some various artists, and just started sharing portfolios around, and then started getting the guys that I represented work at Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, etc. And that's our core business. That's expanded into some video game art and some commercial art. Worked for Nike, Universal City, Skechers, all kinds of Red Bull's been a client. Blizzard Entertainment, Riot Games, so we've kind of climbed up the ladder, step by step over the last 10 years. We kind of built up a staff, to support all that. And then, for years I was saying, gosh, we do everything but publish. I mean, we have the infrastructure to publish comic books. The only thing that we stop at is sending the books off to the printer, marketing and selling the darn stuff. I was looking at the staff, I was looking at the market, going back to 2014, and we wanted to make an anthology to showcase our work, Space Goat Presents, and that turned into a 120-page anthology with about 7 stories and a bunch of concept art and behind the scenes kind of special features. And what we did there was, I decided that we were going to, in 10 weeks, from start to finish, create these concepts and send the book off to the printer. And everyone on my staff said, "You're absolutely crazy." I'm like, "What are you talking about? We've done crazier things to make deadlines for Marvel and DC. Why can't we do it for ourselves?" So I basically put on a pot of coffee and got to work. And 10 weeks later, the thing went off to the printer. I think it was actually a day late from what I asked, what I wanted the deadline to be. But that's basically how. I mean, you guys have both looked at Spacescope Presents. I don't know if you guys have the hard copies or if you looked at it digitally.
Yeah, I got the hard copy at Pittsburgh Comic Con, or was it Pittsburgh or Philly? I think maybe it was.
Philly, okay, yeah, we had a booth there. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, couple years ago. That would have been the summer that we had actually made it.
Right.
Yeah, so that was fresh off the presses, really. I think that might have been the first show that we were full had actual stock. That took 10 weeks from inception to going off to the printer. So I kind of used that to encourage my staff to understand that we had the capacity to do that. And then from there, we kind of decided to, was the market right? And looking at the material that people say they want and the kind of material that we want to make. I mean, we didn't really know what kind of material we wanted to make until we made the anthology. But apparently what we wanted to do was like quirky kind of horror things, primarily. Primarily. If it's kind of quirky and there's nightmarish elements to it and some monsters and some knives, chances are pretty good that we want to make it and publish it. We didn't know that when we decided to make the anthology. Did we want to do superhero stuff? Do we want to try to come up with our own lumberjanes or whatever? So that was kind of, us trying to figure out what we wanted to be as a publisher. Not just what we could do, but also the kind of books that we wanted to produce. So that took us all the way from, 2004 to our launch date, in June of 2015. And that's when we, came out with, a couple of our own creator-owned books, one of which was in the anthology, and our first licensed book, Evil Dead 2.
Cool. There was definitely some great stuff in the anthology. I really liked that was when I picked it up. I spend a lot of time in Artist Alley when I do go to conventions. I usually don't see anything else except for Artist Alley, and I'll spend like 4 hours there, just walking up and down and talking to everybody. So, it was really cool to stop and talk to you guys. And here's this publisher I'd never heard of before. They had a beautiful quality hardcover book. I mean, some of the other folks had nice looking books, but a lot of them were printed like bigger than a regular comic, or they had some other little thing to them. But you guys had this beautiful hardcover, really nice printing, great art, and a bunch of different types of art. It wasn't like, not to talk bad about anybody, but some of the publishers you go to, their art's kind of stock. No matter who's doing the artwork, it's supposed to look the same across all their books. You guys had a wide variety of things in there, and not just horror. You had a really cool sci-fi story in the anthology, but great stuff. So it was an interesting thing. And then I didn't really hear anything more from you for a couple months until Rocket Girl on the Ranch, or Rocket Queen on the Ranch, and then Mixtape. Those were the two that I remember seeing and picking up.
Yeah, so when you picked up that book in 2014, we still hadn't decided to be a publisher. That was just kind of our showcase of our talent. Everyone that was in that book were artists or production guys or designers or whatever that we represent or regularly work with and whose services we use on the production side of things. So it was really just one big expensive business card more than anything else. And I just, wanted to take the opportunity to drive home that we can also create content. That was 7 brand new concepts that we created from scratch. We got those babies off of print in 10 weeks. My Hollywood, our agent in Hollywood just told me that there's interest in 2 of them. So there's been interest in all of them at one point. Not all of them, most of them. Mr. First, not so much, Justin, for whatever reason. But
the one I like.
I know, door kickers, big game hunters, Family Secrets. We routinely get nibbles from Hollywood for those particular books. And we haven't done anything else with them but make those 10-page intro comics. So hopefully, that really expensive investment will more than pay for itself. But it's already done its job. It proved that we can make nice quality product is just as good as any other publisher that's out doing it, regardless of their market share. And so like I said, from there, when you pick that book up, we still hadn't decided to be a publisher at that point. It wasn't until about the end of that year where we started reaching out to Diamond and some retailers and some licensors to see what kind of licensed books would be available and and to set up our vendor account at Diamond and whatnot. So and then we launched in June of 2016. So 10 months ago, really. We picked that book up 2 years ago, but we only started officially publishing 10 months ago. And since then we've released well over 30 comic books. Most of them are Evil Dead, but we've got a good library of books already, and now we're starting to, in addition to more normal sized comic books, we're starting to come out with our collected editions already. So sorry about the glare. I don't know how cameras work.
It's good.
But so that's the first volume of our Evil Dead book, Beyond Dead by Dawn, and we're I think it's the last week of pre-orders for the second volume, Cradle of the Damned, right now. You can find that in previews. So that's kind of brings us up to date with what we've been doing, kind of mechanically, anyways.
Okay. And I've been picking up the Evil Dead books. I really like those. I'm a big Evil Dead fan, so it was cool to see a comic based on the story and picking up not from Army of Darkness, but from what happened at the end of Evil Dead 2, which it left a lot of questions, and I like the way it was played out because it wasn't so much like focusing on Ash, which is what I think people expected, but focusing on the girl Deborah, right, and everything that happened with her after she died. So that was pretty neat. It's just a different concept. So.
Yeah, that's Annie Novi. She's the one that gets stabbed with a dagger at the end. The professor's daughter, she's more commonly referred to as, but we like to use her proper name.
Okay, Annie, that's right. I always think of her as that stupid girl that let him out,
but she's a cool character. I mean, if you think about her, if you go back and watch the movie, she's basically Laura Croft, right? She's the professor's Girl Friday. She's out there, finding missing pages of the Necronomicon and ancient artifacts and whatnot. And apparently she knows ancient Sumerian, so she's no dummy. So when we got the Evil Dead license, we only have the license for Evil Dead 2. Army of Darkness is a total different copyright. So we had to play within those parameters. And, we really just had 3 goals. One being to make a comic that's faithful to the movie, so fans don't lynch us. The second one was to find a way to bring Ash into things. And
sorry, we're having a little sound issue there. I'm not sure what it is.
Sorry if I seem distracted. I was trying to figure out if that was on my end. And then the third goal was to turn Annie Novi into a realized character. Because both horror movies and comic books aren't really well known for fully realized female characters.
True.
And we didn't want, she's a great character, just laying there with a dagger in her back.
Right.
we we might as well do something with it. So that was kind of the two goals that we had with this license. And obviously, on the writing side of things, if Frank Hanna just kind of knocked it out of the park. Um, I couldn't ask for a better writer for that particular book.
That's been great. Yeah. All right. So, well, let's ask you the big question that we always ask everybody. What
Okay.
was Justin? I'll let you ask it because this is Justin's question.
Oh, okay. So what was the book back whenever it was, that made you think, this is something I would like to do? Like, was there a specific book where you were just like, this?
Of course there was.
do this?
Of course there was. I would have to say that was Uncanny X-Men 166.
Oh, wow.
The double-sized issue, kind of the conclusion of the Brood War. Paul
Oh
Smith's
yeah.
first X-Men comic book. That pretty much did it for me. I mean, I had been reading comic books for years before then, but when I saw that book, I just became an X-Men fanatic. For some reason, I had never picked up an X-Men book before that. But I went back and bought all of them and just continued to buy all the X-Men books. And, this was like I was probably in fifth grade at the time. And then it just kind of dawned on me that, when you look at like the little credits page block, those are human beings that are, writing and drawing those things. And that's kind of where the idea to turn this into a profession kind of started taking
Very
shape.
cool.
I actually had made the decision then in fifth grade that that's what I was going to do for a living.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering what I'm going to do for a living. So we've talked about the past. We've talked about the present. What's the future of Space Goat Productions? Where do you see things going? I know we kind of touched on the possible Hollywood interest
Yeah.
in the different books.
Yeah.
So where do you see it going?
Yeah, well, I mean, what we want to keep doing is, keep making cool Evil Dead stories. Those things that pay the bills. And, we have a nice lineup of Evil Dead books to include collecting, the individual comic books into trades and oversized books and whatnot, for the next couple of years. Um, and then, we'll continue, and what we're doing with Evil Dead starting in June, the digest size, Beyond Dead by Dawn, trade paperbacks, coming out again a second time. The first printing of Cradle of the Damned, is coming out. That's the second arc in what's really a trilogy, that we're working on. Beyond Dead being the first arc, Cradle being the second arc. And then in August, the third arc, Dark One's Rising, is coming out. Same creative team. Frank's on board. Oscar Bazaldua is on board. Carlos Eduardo and Chris Summers. The whole team is still on it. There's a nice continuity there.
Great.
That's kind of like what we refer to as our anchor books. The Frank Hanna Evil Dead books. And then we have a smattering of one shots, that are building off the success of a Revenge of Hitler book, and I'll hold it up and try not to be a dork about the camera. Nope, failing.
There we go.
Yeah, so Revenge of Hitler. That book did really well for us. It was written by Ian Edgington, a long time heavy metal and 2008 British writer. Drawn by Larry Watts, who's actually did a fair amount of Army of Darkness stuff for Dynamite, so he's
Cool.
Knows how to draw Ash Williams. So that book's sold out almost immediately, in I guess it would have been March or April, whenever it was released. Regardless, it's going back to print next week, and there'll be another version in stores before the end of May. I think May 25th is when it needs to be in the stores. So our production guys banging out a variant of that. It's its own unique kind of thing.
Okay.
And then based off the success of that, what we're doing is launching 4 more similar one-shots as part of like the Revenge of line. So might have the months screwed up, but it's in the press release that's on our website. But July brings us Evil Dead: Revenge of Dracula, written by Georgia Ball, who's currently the writer of Transformers,
Cool.
and Strawberry Shortcake. So if you if you're looking for diversity in a writer, Georgia Ball is it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else we got? I got my schedule right here, actually.
Hopefully we don't see too much Strawberry Shortcake in the Revenge of Dracula, but
Maybe we can do like a Dracula versus Strawberry Shortcake thing.
I'd buy it. I'd buy that.
In September, Ty Templeton, who's probably best known for his Batman work, is joining us to write Revenge of the Martians, which is a take on War of the World. So imagine that we're in the Evil Dead universe. And the War of the World is actually something that actually happened in this particular world. And then those Martian corpses that are buried all over the planet get taken over by Deadites. So that should be like printing an ATM machine. Ty Templeton doing the covers on that, just like he did the variant covers on Cradle of the Damned. It's just really exciting to see that one come together. The outline was absolutely ridiculous. I misspoke about Revenge of Dracula. That's not written by George Ball. That's actually written by longtime Batman writer and editor Scott Peterson. And that's just it's Ash and he fights Dracula, and it doesn't get much better than that. And then rounding out the Revenge of stuff for 2016, we have Georgia Ball's story, Revenge of Jack the Ripper, self-explanatory. It's kind of a mandate with these one-shots. The titles have to be self-explanatory. And then Ian Edgington's coming back in time for Thanksgiving with Revenge of the Krampus.
Nice.
So that just in time to stuff that in little kids' stockings.
Or stuff little kids in the stockings.
So that's Evil Dead, and then again, there's a smattering of trade paperbacks. June has Beyond Dead by Dawn Volume 1 and Cradle of the Damned Volume 1. So that's a lot of Evil Dead. And as far as I can tell from our online sales and our sales at Diamond and convention sales, people just want it all. They'll just grab every single one of every version and just chuck their debit card at us. So that's encouraging. So we're on the lookout for our next license that might be as good as Evil Dead. That's easier said than done. We've got about half a dozen things on our table that might be as good. Nothing that I can talk about, so I'm going to be super vague about that.
I understand.
Yeah.
If anybody knows who has the rights to Beastmasters, I will gladly make you guys a Beastmaster comic book.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
So I think so. It's a fun little world that they created.
Yep.
And then of course, we have our non-Evil Dead stuff. Also in June, it's a really super trade paperback heavy month. We have a creator-owned property that's all ages. Really great. It's won a number of awards. It's Kickstarter funded. It's called Monster Elementary. We're doing two things with it. This is kind of not really done, but we're releasing the graphic novel. It has about 15 stories in it, 104 pages. And then we're also releasing what we're referring to as a sampler, which is going to be a 24-page, $2.99 comic book of content from the graphic novel. So, people who don't want to invest $22.99 in the graphic novel, maybe they can pick up the zero issue that we're calling First Semester first to just kind of get a taste of it. But once they realize that it's good reading for their kids and them, I think they'll go out and buy the trade paperback as well. But you know, if they buy both at the same time, that's not gonna hurt my feelings.
Yeah, right.
So that's actually being in pre-orders are going for that right now.
Okay.
So if somebody wants that, they can go tell their retailer. We got a ton of product information on our Facebook page, Facebook Publishing. If anybody wants to check that out, but I'm sure the retailer can help them too.
Okay.
So that's so that's kind of it. And then we have our books that we published last year, our non-Evil Dead books that we published last year, Big Game Hunters, Mage Incorporated, Mixtape, and Rocket Queen that we want to collect. They were all designed to be collected, more so than they were designed to be individual comic books. So we want to collect them, and then and put them on the schedule again just to try to keep finding homes for those books. They're fabulous books, and they're worthy of being on any comic book lover's bookshelf.
Cool. Well, I know there's a lot of good content. We'll definitely have links in the description of this video and then in the article as well that can point people to the different websites and the Facebook page so they can track everything down. So just in case the sound issues we're having, drown out anything you were saying, they'll be able to go right there and take a look at that. So.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, Shon, we definitely appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us, and we love. I love Space Goat Productions. The stuff that I've seen so far is just awesome. I know you guys have a lot of digital content as well, right?
Yeah. Everything that we have is all just to keep it simple. You can find it all on Comixology, but it's on multiple platforms.
Okay. Good.
Now, will you be at any cons this coming season? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so we're still fleshing out our summer convention season, but we're keeping things pretty much close to the Pacific Northwest. That's where we're based out of. So we just finished Emerald City and in Wizard World Portland earlier this year. We'll be at Lilac Comic Con on the east side of Washington in a couple weeks here. And I don't have anything else buttoned down. But you can go to our Facebook page and Space Goat Publishing specifically, and we'll put up little events of what shows we'll be at.
Okay.
Emerald City is probably going to be the only really huge show that we're going to attend this year. We're putting our focus on smaller shows where people actually go to find comic books,
Right.
Instead of watch movie sizzle reels.
Right.
So that's kind of the goal there.
Okay, great. All right. Well, everybody out there, we really appreciate you taking the time to watch and hear about Space Goat Productions. We hope that you will like, share, and subscribe. Send this out to everybody. We'd like to get the word out about this great company. Shon, again, thank you. We appreciate your time. And everybody out there, we'll talk to you later. Read more comics.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Have a good night, Justin. Take care.
Thanks. Sir. Have a good one.